Okay, so this video will be covering Microsoft PowerPoint for beginners. What is PowerPoint? PowerPoint is a presentation software that allows you, the creator, to conduct business meetings, training sessions, and lectures to be easily presented through a slideshow, which allows your audience to follow along as you discuss topics covered. You can print handouts for everyone in your audience to take notes if the topic is lengthy, complex, or important to retain. Now, in all of these videos, as I'm going over Office 365, I just remind you that there's the free version. You would need to have an Outlook or a Microsoft account to get that free version. It's in all my videos. And then the one here for Google, it would be Google Slides. So the free PowerPoint for Google is Google Slides. And again, you would go to your Gmail and there'd be that 9-dot formation. It's like in a square in the top right corner of your email screen, and you click on that and you scroll down to Google Slides to get the Google version of PowerPoint. And once you set up your free basic or get your student basic Office 365 account, we would be looking at this particular video for PowerPoints. Okay, so sometimes you might find in class you're going to have to make a presentation to the class, or once you get into the job and you have subordinates, you're going to have a meeting, you might want to prepare them, send out a PowerPoint that they can already read and be prepared for. And like I said, at the end, we'll look at handouts that you might want to hand out so that they could take notes or write down questions they might have for you. And so when you first open PowerPoint in Office, you'll see there'll be a new blank presentation or more themes. That's also known as templates. Themes are also called templates. And there'll be a link there that you can click on with more choices of templates. And we'll explore this in the next slide. So starting a PowerPoint with a template. So you'll want to start your presentation and you want to make sure it looks professional. So if you're doing a business meeting, you want to have that professional look. If you're doing a sales pitch, you might want to choose a creative background. If you're doing a classroom lecture or a serious meeting, you might want to go with something conservative. So therefore, you need to select a template that's suitable for the content that your slideshow is going to be presenting. If you cannot find a suitable template, you could create a blank template and apply a design later. Let's look at starting a new template presentation, adding a new slide, and then changing the design. And then we'll come back to this PowerPoint. I do also want to say Microsoft.com has free templates if you're not happy with the selection you have there. And then as you've seen in my Excel videos, there are hundreds of free templates out there provided by different websites that you might want to check out. But I think the one that they have here in Microsoft Office is sufficient. So here I am at the home page of my Office 365. And so I'm going to scroll down to the bottom left navigation pane and select Go to PowerPoint. And as I said, the first thing you'll see is a new blank presentation. And then they have here themes that you can choose from. And if you don't like these, you go to the more themes. And this is where you'll see more templates to choose from, and you can scroll down and say, well, let me see if I like any of these. But even if you don't, you could go back to that. You could go to the new blank PowerPoint, and you can look at designs as you go along and say, okay, let me see how this design will look. So the first page is normally your title page. So, presentation on breaks. Maybe I'm doing a quick meeting with my employees on breaks. Now you see immediately once I've done this, here you'll see designer comes up and they have several templates for me to choose from that they're suggesting. Well, hey, based on the topic you have here, maybe you want to check these out. And if I don't like this, I could come over here to design, and then you'll have several here that you could choose from. Okay. And then if I still don't like any of these, I could come over here and look at maybe something a little bit more plain if I want to, dress down. So obviously if you have a sales pitch, you might want to go with something like this that kind of stands out and wow, this really is eye-catching. is you want your audience to have their attention on the slide. Whereas if you're doing a presentation where you really want to make sure they're listening to the words and the message you're conveying, you might want to bring it down a little, tone it down to something simplistic, or just simply a line. If you notice with my Excel presentations that I've done, I've only had maybe 1 or 2 lines on the screen. I haven't changed the background too much on here. Oh, so this is the variants. These are showing you the different colors that you could choose from. Here is where I can change it to something like, I like this one. I actually tend to like simplistic presentations because I don't want too much to be taken out of, the message that I'm trying to convey. So I might not want to have something so loud. I might go something, subtle like this, where there's just a little bit in the background. And I want to make sure that the students are listening to the words that I'm using. And I also wanted to make sure you understand how to insert slides. So once we come here, all right, I found what I like. I like this. This is subtle. It's relaxing. I think it's not too distracting. So now I want to go to my next. Now this is a title page. And here I might, put my name. Okay, and now I want to add in a slide. So they're going to give me different type of slides. I tend to use title content, and if you notice, I'm not too flashy and I don't change it often. So most of my PowerPoint presentation has a title page and then this particular slide. And if you're going to keep using the same one, then you could just go new slide and it'll just keep bringing up the new one. I'm pretty simplistic, so I use the same type of slide. But if you notice here on the designer, it's also giving me, well, hey, I see you like this theme. How about for this page, you might want to go with this designer. If you don't want this, then you just click X and then say, okay, I'm sticking with this. I don't want to add anything else. So just to show you, there are different type of slides here. If you wanted to have something that you have a picture in the background, or if you want it just to be blank because you're going to be importing, a specific table or picture, you might want to just have blank and then import that in. So we're going to look at that actually right now. So let me come out of that. I just wanted to show you how to get started with selecting a template and adding slides. So the next thing I want to look at is inserting a picture, a shape, and a text box. So we're going to go back to the tab Insert, and if you go to Pictures, there's be different things. You could go to your OneDrive, you can go to Stock Images, you can go to Bing, or you could go to what you have saved on your device. And I believe I have a picture of myself on here, right? Yeah, so let me put that. I like to keep my picture there for examples that I use in the classroom. So here's my picture, all right. And then another thing I might want to do is insert a shape. So you'll see them often in a lot of my PowerPoints. I do arrows. You'll see those in my QBOs, or I might, if I have something and I'm saying something and I want that to stand out what I'm saying, I might want to try to use something like this, where I'm So maybe I'll put this kind of a little bit further down, and then I'll have me making a statement. Oops, I probably have to, okay. And then I say, hello. Oops. So I might, if I'm presenting this to a class on, this is the first time we're ever discussing PowerPoint, I might have a slide like this. Hello, let's talk about PowerPoint. What uses we would use them in the classroom, in business, sales pitches, and so on. So this is inserting a shape, this is inserting a picture, and the last one is a text box. So remember I was showing you, you could have that plain slide and you might bring in a table, but you might decide, ooh, I want to add something to this table. So you can always insert a little small text box, which you can enlarge to whatever size you want. And here it is. So I'm going to bring it over here And then in here, you're going to type in what you want. So, I'm going to write Microsoft 365. Come over here to home and make this a little bigger. So, yeah. And then when you have a text box like this, you might want to have a fill-in in the background. So you have the shape fill. So if you don't know what I just did, I clicked on here and then I right-clicked. If you have a Chromebook, that means you take your two fingers and you tap on the mouse pad. And then you'll have here shape fill and shape outline. So I have this slide, if you see, is black. So maybe I want to go with the gray. I'm going to go with a gray, maybe this color gray. And then I'll stick with the black outline. And then one of the things I like to do with the outline is make it a little thicker. You might notice I kind of have the same, I stick to the same type of setup on my PowerPoint. So I would have something like this on my text, but you know, and I would tell my students, a lot of times my students know, if you see a yellow or a gray text box, that's something you know want to make sure you put in your notes because that might be on the test. So if you're the type that, you know, you're going to have a business meeting on a weekly basis or a monthly basis and you have PowerPoints, you might want to give your audience clues, like, you know, if you ever see a text box or if you ever see a specific comment like a shape, just know that that's something that you know, want to really focus in on, and or I might want you to share a little bit more, or you know, have some sort of discourse further on that topics. You know, I do that with students and let them know. Make sure you write that down in your notes. That might be something we'll discuss later, or you might see on a quiz. Let's look at the next one. Bringing a picture or an object forward. Okay, so sometimes you might have several pictures that you want to bring in, okay? And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select from a stock image, which I don't know if my PowerPoint is, I don't know if my internet's going to go. I'll do blueberries. I like blueberries. Let's insert that. All right. Now, suppose I want to have blueberries as a topic of my discussion and breaks as far as eating. Eating in the break room. And then let's do another one because I want to show you how if you have two stock images and you might want one to come in front of the other because sometimes you might not have enough space. I like this one because this is, most of my students are business students. So let me go with a, yes, this, I like this. Okay. So as you see, this actually works very great because I have this background image, and then this one I obviously would want to come in front of the other one, right? But if I decided later, well, you know what, I don't want that. I don't want it to be where this one is coming before that one. So instead I would right click, okay, and then you would see bring to front. So you're going to go bring to front, and then it would overlay whatever you have there. And that often happens maybe if you have, you know, a table that you're presenting, and then you might have a comment, and that comment is behind the table. But you want to make sure that comment comes in front of the table. Obviously, this looks awkward, so I'd come back over here and say, you know what, that doesn't look right. Let me come back and bring this over to the front and have them like this. Okay. The next thing I wanted to look at is inserting SmartArt. So SmartArt charts are something that kind of, I think they draw attention as well as they can be creative. So if you're talking about a sales meeting, one of my favorite ones is the cycle. I like this one. So I'm going to do the basic cycle. And then, so in accounting, one of the things we talk about in Accounting 101 are the several steps of the accounting process. So step number one is business transactions. Right? So business transactions occur. So that would be my first step. The next step that happens in there would be recording, properly recording transactions. All right. The next step after that is analyzing, let's say reports. Okay, so if you see what's going on here, and I'm going to make this a little bigger because it is kind of hard to read because it's small, but if you could see what's going on here, is as I'm making this, it is writing this in here. Okay, and if I wanted to make them larger, I would just have to right click and enlarge or format the option so that these are larger in my SmartArt. But this is one of the ways if you want to put some sort of flow chart in here, especially if it's sales, or as I say, when you teach management or marketing or economics, finance, accounting, things come in steps. So, or if you're even talking about training. So if you're having a business meeting with employees or your sales force and you're saying, I want to talk about the steps that are going to happen, what we need to implement next month in our new sales pitch. So you would kind of talk about the steps and how they kind of, are in some sort of cyclical, uh, have some sort of cyclical relationship, and how it comes back around. So that's just, I like this one, but there's several of them just to show you again, a few more. So if you go to insert and then you come over here to SmartArt, these are the SmartArt charts. Now, obviously, like I've said in other ones, um, because I have a free edition of Office 365, I don't have a lot of features. So if you're paying for a larger, subscription, you're going to have a lot more to choose from. So this is a little limited, or if you have the desktop version. But you might be able to find some that you can add on um, to whatever subscription level you have on by going to Microsoft.com. So that might be something you want to look into if you are interested in using SmartArt and you have a subscription level that has limited features. Okay. All right, let's next one. So making a table and formatting a table brought into PowerPoint. So you can make a table by selecting Insert and then Table. We'll do that in a second. Then you can type any desired text inside each cell, and you could bring the table, or you can bring in a table from Excel. So if you've seen my videos before, I've showed you, making tables in Excel, and you can simply copy and paste or cut and paste and bring it into any of the other software applications. So I can take a table from Excel and bring it into Word or bring it into PowerPoint. Or they make it nice and easily for us now that in PowerPoint or Word, they have the option here in Insert to create a table. So we could do that, and I'm going to do that right now. So let's say I want a 3 by 2. So I'm going to go like this, 3 by 2 table. And I'm going to, oops, I did a 3 by 2. I'm sorry, I did a 3 by 1. Where did it go there? I by mistake did that. All right. Well, you saw what happened anyway. So I have a 3 by 1 by mistake because so now once I click on here, you'll see this table tab that comes here. So, all right, you'll want the table to look professional, and therefore you'll need to make some adjustments to the text formatting within each cell. To do so, select the table. Now, if you notice, I have these circles highlighted, meaning if I click out, they won't be. Now I have this selected. But once I select this table, okay, you'll see this table tab come up. Okay, so this would be your layout tab, and it would actually be called the contextual table tab. Now, again, I have a very simplistic, version of Office 365. If you have the desktop version or if you have a more advanced, you'll see a lot more options here. But we have a few. So if I click on table, then I will be able to see here at least style options. Okay. And if I want a header row or, obviously I did a 1 by 3 by mistake, sorry about that, but how I might want the setup style to be. And then also here, if I wanted to look at the different type of table styles, whether it be light, and I think there's a few more down here, medium or dark, okay? And so this would be your choice on what you're displaying and how you want it to look. And then the last thing I think we talk about here is printing out handouts. So when you come over here to File, okay, and then we come down to the printing option, one of the option is print handouts, the third one down. So if I come over here, it's taking a second, huh? Let's see. Oh, here we go. All done. Your file is ready to print. Okay, here we go. The first time it didn't work. I don't know why. But so when you go to the third one, it'll automatically show you by default usually a 3-slide. I usually tell students this is the best one. So for example, my students do externships, and at the end of their externship, they have to do a presentation that they have to present to either an instructor or to a class. And if a student asks me, is there anything you want me to do? I say, go ahead, please print out a handout to your PowerPoint presentation so I can write notes to myself. So at the end, when I go to do the final grade, I could look back at the notes at each slide that they presented. So this is giving an example of the presentation I'm showing to you right now, where each slide has these lines here so that your audience members can take notes as they're watching you present. And I think that's a great thing to do for your audience members, especially if it's something either complex or lengthy. So sometimes I have classes that are longer than others. I might be doing a lecture, and that lecture is going to be maybe 2 hours. Now, the average person does not have the attention span to really listen to somebody talking for 2 hours. So instead, what you might want to do, obviously, I break up, I take little breaks, so I do little activities. But what I also like to do is allow students to take notes as I'm going, because, there might be times where, you're not as attentive. So you want to take notes as you're listening to my presentation. And so providing your audience with handouts is great if it's either lengthy or complex or something very important that you want to make sure that they retain and have notes to take home on. If it's something like you're implementing a new procedure at work, you want to make sure that they have handout and notes that they can refer to. Not just what you're providing them, but also what they took down as their understanding or what they find important to add to the steps that you have there for them to follow. The last thing I want to talk about is do's and don'ts of PowerPoints. And there's so many articles out here on the internet that'll tell you the do's and don'ts. But one of my main ones that I tell students is make sure you do not have a slide that has, this is a good example, because for someone who's sitting in the back of my class, and I might have a huge class, you see this font right here? This font is 24. It actually does meet my standards. I try to ask my students to use 24 or higher. I thought this was smaller. But let's not forget, I don't have this in presentation mode actually. So you're seeing it smaller than it would if I was actually gonna come over here to slideshow and present. 24 or higher is an appropriate font size because you need to take into consideration your audience and where they're sitting. If you're in a large room, and I might have a lecture class where I have 20, 30 students, and it's a large room and I have a student sitting in the 6th or 7th row in the back, or whatever your setting is in your audience, you want to make sure that they can see everything on your slide. So one of the do's is make sure font size is appropriate for the setting. Now, if you're having a small meeting and everybody's sitting at a table, then you could probably maybe bring it down to 22 or maybe even 20 if they're sitting and they're looking at the computer, right in front of you. But if it's a larger environment and you have people that are going to be sitting further away from the projector or the screen, you want to make sure that you use an appropriate font size. The other thing I wanted to mention was transitions and animations. I wasn't going to talk about that because this is just the basic one, but this is a way where you would maybe put something, that you want to come in like, wow, I want this to morph in. So if I click morph, when I present it, this would just come from the bottom and spring up onto my slide. Or, you have the push or the fade or the wipe, so it just wiped the screen across. Animations as a fly-in or suddenly appears. So when you go to present, you might have this table just kind of pop up, or fade in. So there's different things you can do to make your presentation kind of like, jazzy. I think that's great for sales pitches. My students know I'm actually very conservative in my presentations as an instructor. I don't use these often, transitions or animations, but I think it is a great thing and a fun thing if you're presenting something fun or if you're doing a sales pitch. I think this is something that you should explore. So if you're just getting started with PowerPoint, go ahead and explore some of these things. Now you would actually put this on and then you wouldn't see it until you go to slideshow and you present. So when you come over to slideshow, that's where you would say either from the beginning or from the current slide, and you would present it, and that's where you would see the animation or the transition of whatever you selected coming onto the screen in some sort of, fantastical way. So I don't use them often, but I would say that if you're doing something fun or a sales pitch, then go ahead and use those. If you're doing something professional, me as an instructor, I try not to use those too often. All right, so that would be our very first presentation on basic intro for PowerPoint beginners. In the comments, if there's anything you'd like me to go over, let me know. If not, I'll probably move on to Word, and then I will be getting back to my QuickBook videos. Thank you for watching.